Blind Advocate. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. The Blind Advocate will get you there.
And good morning and welcome to another live stream. Today there's two topics I want to touch on, but before I do, I say this before every stream that I really need people's support by hitting that subscribe button on my YouTube channel. You don't have to watch everything I put out, but if you just hit that subscribe button, I need 1,000 subscribers so I can get paid by YouTube because they play commercials through live streams and that. Today, there's two issues that I would like to touch on today. I think they're extremely important, which leads into why people with disabilities usually don't speak up and speak out on issues that affect them on a daily basis. The first one I'd like to do today is Jordan Steele-John addressing the Senate on the Rebecca Falkingham debacle, where she kicked someone off the NDIS for speaking out about buzzwords and key phrases that the NDIS like to hear and read and see. So in this video, you'll see Jordan Steele-John talking, but you see George Teleporis.
We are seeing confusion reign.
You just see George Teleporis has his little brand up there. This is not by George Teleporis. It's from the Senate when Jordan Steele-John was talking.
When it comes to the NDIS and the legislation that is meant to support it. The changes that the government rammed through last year are wreaking havoc in the lives of so many disabled people, their families and their allies. Participants are receiving conflicting information from staff. Agency staff are not interacting in a trauma-informed way. Planners continue not to read the evidence they have been provided with and have often requested. There is a continual pattern of planners and agency delegates making a call, giving a view in relation to clinical evidence that they are not qualified to assess. Meanwhile, we also continue to see agency staff breach participants' privacy through the sharing of confidential information without the consent of participants, continuing to email the wrong people with the wrong information again, and again. This new 3-month funding period that has been introduced by the government continues to limit choice and control. Because guess what? Some people's funding needs and the expenses that go with them don't fit neatly into a 3-month funding period. Sometimes they need intense supports requiring additional funding for longer periods than 3 months. It just does not make sense. It's the type of bureaucratic nonsense that the NDIS was created to eliminate. The biggest casualty, though, of this new NDIS Act is the fact that the legislation no longer considers reasonable and necessary in its determination of funding or of supports. And what have we seen as a result of that? We have seen over 700 new appeals to the tribunal in May of 2025 alone. It also seems, by the way, that the participant service guarantee, much celebrated when it was passed, has just been chucked out the window. In March 2025, in that quarter, only 9% of people who applied to get access to the NDIS had that request actioned in the required 21-day period. 9%. Meanwhile, the agency continue to make unreasonable requests on participants. Things like saying that they have 2 business days to apply in relation to the progression of complaints an unreasonable deadline in itself, but then in fact closing the complaint as they hadn't received the information within their own 2-day deadline. We are continuing to see participants kicked off the scheme because of what appears to me to be a culture in the agency that prioritises media management over supporting participants and their families, seeing participants kicked off their supports because selectively edited bits of information were presented to a minister by a shock jock during an interview, resulting in a diktat to kick that participant off the scheme. What happened? 10 months later, after appeal after appeal after appeal, they got their funding back because guess what? The information the agency had was not sufficient to make the decision, and in fact, if the evidence was looked at, the person very much did meet the access requirements and needed those supports. This is an absolute shame on this government and indeed on the entire body of the political system dominated by the major parties. Both the Liberal Party and the Labour Party and the National Party should hang their heads in shame when they hear what is happening to NDIS participants right now. The fear and uncertainty, the cuts and the pain from people that deserve so much better. Well, we in the Greens will keep fighting for disabled people and their families.
Well, there you go. They will put it into a nutshell by Jordan Steele, John, Green Senator. He's a really very well-read man, very articulate and very passionate about supporting people with disabilities. I think he does more than any other politician to support people with disabilities, their families, carers and support workers. My last stream, I spoke about Rebecca Falkingham emailing her top staff to get someone on the NDIS kicked off the NDIS because he was coaching his doctor on how to use buzzwords and key phrases that the NDIS like. I do that all the time, not just with doctors, but specialists, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, anybody who has anything to do with my funding plan. I tell them the key phrases and the key words that the NDIS likes to use and likes to read. Now, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but the other day in the news, I seen this article regarding a woman with mental health issues, and the police were sending out for a welfare check. And this is what happened to this poor person. I'm just outrageous. You know, it's just, I don't know. I'll let you watch it and form your own opinions on this person. Yeah, here we go.
Former police officers have been sentenced to years behind bars for the assault of a mentally ill woman in Sydney's West. A judge slamming as cruel and brutal the attack, which was all captured on video and has now been publicly released by the court. And a warning, the details in this report are confronting.
Their final moment of freedom, a swift push to the courtroom doors. How do you feel about going to prison? Are you ashamed of what you've done? Are you sorry for your actions? Are you prepared to go to prison? Nathan Black and Timothy Troush, no longer police officers, now prisoners, both sentenced to at least 3 years non-parole. Their victim, a naked, unarmed woman with schizophrenia. It was a Sunday afternoon in 2023 when the officers were called to Emu Plains to help her. She was belligerent. They were brutal, unleashing their police-issued capsicum spray on her face and her vagina. Here, Troush smiles as she tries to run away. These images captured on Black's own body-worn camera. Then it's switched off, but they don't realise there's CCTV recording across the road as they drag her by the hair, repeatedly kicking and stomping on her, lying on the road. The judge slamming it as a committed and disgraceful attack, clearly calculated, in my view, to inflict the maximum pain and discomfort in the face of someone who clearly may have been best approached in a kindly manner. The woman taken to Nepean Hospital, paramedics and staff so concerned they reported it to police. The next day, Black sends videos of the attack to a colleague, saying the body worn is so good. The judge slamming it as the most serious offending, and the acting police commissioner agreed, calling it one of the worst examples of contravening our core values and ethics I have ever seen. The courtroom was packed with family and supporters of the two men. Some put their head in their hands as the images were shown. Others broke down in tears as the men were sentenced to prison. They'll be eligible for parole in 2028. Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
Okay, so there we go. We've seen the police in out for a welfare check on a woman with schizophrenia. Jordan's playing. Yeah, so the police were sent out for a welfare check on a Sunday afternoon. So what they do? They drag her outside, kick the hell out of her, stomp on her, hit her with capsicum spray in the face and between the legs. And then they turn the video camera, the body cams off. Why are they able to cut those body cams off? Why shouldn't they be played, recording from the moment they get out of the car so they're unable to stop it or mute it? Now, I've seen hundreds of videos, body cams from all around the world where the police turn these cameras off while they break the law. Why is this allowed? Why can't we have a body cam that's unable to be turned off or muted as soon as they get out of the car? That's my first question. Secondly, 5 years. Now, if somebody grabbed a police officer and kicked the hell out of him, they'd be getting more than 5 years. They'd probably get double that because they're a police officer. I don't know. I mean, this leads into my question and statements of why people with disabilities and their families and carers are afraid to speak up and speak out because of retribution by people in authority. Case in point, Rebecca Falkingham. Now, on the LinkedIn app, there was somebody sent Dr. George Teleporos a link to the YouTube channel, which is public, which was where the bloke was talking about coaching his GP on buzzwords and key phrases and how he does it. Now, the link was sent to Dr. George Teleporos. I asked for that link because I couldn't find it. And he said he wouldn't release it for privacy reasons. Well, George, whose privacy? Is it for the privacy of the person who put it out on YouTube in the first place, which is in the public domain, so there's no privacy there expected? Or are you protecting your friend, who you stated is your friend, Rebecca Falkingham? Come on, George. You say you're an advocate, but you're only going to pick and choose who you advocate for and when you're going to do it. Either you're an advocate or you're not. If you're an advocate, then you call Rebecca Falkingham out for what she done. She went against NDIS policies and procedures. She doesn't have the right to kick someone off. She has to refer them to the appropriate department. Now, this Rebecca Falkingham, she's on $808,000 a year. She got a pay increase last year of $71,000. I don't even get the full pension because my wife works, which I think's fair enough. I only get half pension, and I'd love a $71,000 a year increase on my pension. So the privacy, who's that for, George? Is that for your friend Rebecca Falkingham? You stated on your LinkedIn profile that she's a nice person. Well, my opinion's the exact opposite. She's a dreadful, nasty, vindictive, retaliatory person for kicking that person off the NDIS. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous, George Teleporus, that you protect someone that's high up in the NDIA. Why? Why are you doing this? Do you think if you kiss someone's butt enough, you'll get a decent job? Or are you going to be an advocate that you say you are and criticise her? Now, Rebecca Falkingham was diagnosed with breast cancer earlier this year, and I'm really, truly sad that her and her family's going through this. I have cancer. My brother has cancer. My parents died from cancer. I have a cousin that she died when she was 40-year-old from cancer and left two small boys. I have an uncle with cancer. So I know what cancer is and how it affects family. But we have to put that to one side, George, because she did this prior to being diagnosed with breast cancer. So we need to have that as a completely separate and different issue. You say you're an advocate. Well, speak up and out about the treatment of this person by the head of the NDIA, someone who's on $808,000 a year and yields a lot of power, to someone on the DSP who basically has no money, no power. And you're advocating for Rebecca Falkingham, saying she's a nice person? Now, she's been replaced temporarily, from what I understand, as head of the NDIA. Somebody else has taken over. Her contract ends in October. I hope to God it's not renewed. She's done a dreadful job. I could do better. And I don't have nowhere near the skills or the knowledge. All I have is the ability to advocate, to be honest and truthful and do my best for everyone on the NDIA. And you ask people on LinkedIn whether you should apply for that job, no chance in hell should you apply for it. I think you're a dreadful advocate. I think you should stop saying you're an advocate, because you're not, in my opinion. You're just a butt kisser. We all seen that picture of you with you and Bill Shorten, where Bill Shorten's looking down at you and you're looking up him with puppy dog eyes and the halo over your head. And you're the one that calls support workers bum wipers, and all they're there to do is cut up carrots and wipe bums. You're the one that stated that. A real advocate would not say anything like that, would not act like that in any way, shape, or form. So shut up and go away. You're doing more damage than good. Jordan Steele, John, the Green Senator, is doing a fantastic job. And George, you put your logo over that video clip. Isn't that plagiarism, taking credit for somebody else's work? You're supposed to have a PhD in psychology. You should know all about plagiarism. Shut up and go away. You're not my advocate. I'd rather have no advocate than you even suggesting you're an advocate, because you don't represent me. So bugger off and go away. Now, why don't people like talking up, speaking up, talking out about issues? Because of retaliatory behaviour from Rebecca Falkingham, for an example, or the police coming to your house and kicking the hell out of you. This has got to stop. The abuse from people in authority to people with disabilities, it's got to stop. Now, we've seen last year Claire Nolans, that 90-something-year-old woman who was tased and she died because of it. In South Australia, I believe, where a woman was actually picked up by a police officer out of her wheelchair and put on a park bench because she wanted to leave. She was being disorderly on a train, her and a friend. You've got to be kidding me. What right do they have to do that? And in Brisbane, a bloke was coming home after a night out with friends. The police pulled him over, stomped on him, broke his jaw, had to have emergency brain surgery. When is it going to stop? When are people, in the position of authority, going to speak up and stop this from happening? People with disabilities, we get criticised all the time by people who aren't on the NDIS, like these radio shock jocks. They cherry picked some of the stuff out of the YouTube channel. I've asked for a copy of that link from George Teleperson. He won't release it. Why? He's protecting his friend, Rebecca Falkingham. If people in authority don't stop abusing their power and abusing people with disabilities, then nothing we ever say or do is ever going to change. We're not listened to. We make up nearly 20% of the population of people with disabilities. And when you put people, who are older people in aged care, they make up over 20%. That's about 40% of the population is being totally ignored. Now, I'd like to see older people, if they acquire a disability after the age of 67, or 65, I think they should be allowed on the NDIS. Just because you get older doesn't mean you can't acquire a disability. I don't know. If there's somebody out there who has a lot of experience with people with, who have mental illness like schizophrenia or other forms of mental illness, neurodivergent, I think the new phrase is, could you please contact me? It's blindadvocate007@gmail.com. I'd like to learn more about these issues. I mean, here where I live, before 2010, there was a man who was paranoid schizophrenic, morbidly, severely scared of the police. They were asked not to go near him because he's, terrified of the police. So what they do? Identified themselves as police officers, chased him downtown. He rushed out into a laneway, grabbed a bread knife, those big knives that you cut up loaves of bread with, and they cornered him. And there was two police officers there, and he was told to drop the knife, and he just stood there looking at him. And they opened fire, killed him. Shot him dead. Now, the police said he lunged. I don't believe he did, from what I've heard from witnesses. I think and the coroner didn't make a finding. He refused to make a finding. So what I believe happened is that while they were aiming at him with pistols, one of them accidentally put too much pressure on the trigger and it fired, and the other copper joined in, and he was shot dead. Tragic accident. I think, my opinion, those police officers should have been charged with manslaughter, but the coroner refused to make a finding. I mean, these things happen all the time. I just don't understand why they keep happening. Now, this Rebecca Falkingham, head of the NDIA, $808,000, a pay rise of $71,000 last year. She abused the power. It's as simple as that. And if somebody on the NDIS abused their funding, they'd be kicked off. But there's a procedure that the NDIA have to follow. They just can't come out and just say you're gone and kick you off. But what's going to change in the senior management of the NDIA if the attitude's still the same? If attitudes don't change, then policies and procedures don't change. It's the government's going to keep making changes and disadvantage people with disabilities more. Now, I'll send a request out to Jordan Steele-John for an interview. I haven't heard back. I hope to have him on very soon. Is there any comments in chat?
No, I just look at
No. It's dreadful, and I wish people, if they don't want to speak up publicly, you can email me or contact me through LinkedIn. I won't mention your name. I'll help where I can. But we need better representation than we already have from the IAC and the NDIA board. Now, I think I mentioned previously that I requested the minutes from the IAC for the last couple of years. They wouldn't give it to me. That somebody look on the website, and I couldn't do it. Now, I have a MacBook Pro, and it's not compatible with Adobe, so I can't access PDF files. So I had to go through the Privacy Commissioner, the OIAC, lodged a complaint. They ruled in my favour and told them that they had to provide it. I asked for it in an accessible format, like in a Word document, and I asked them for the meetings and the agenda to be sent as individual files. They didn't do that, the IAC. These are supposed to be our representatives. They didn't do it. What did they do? They sent all the files in one document which totaled over 500 pages. Which made it harder for me to go through each meeting. Not only that, they sent it as a PDF file, which I cannot access through my MacBook Pro. I told them this repeatedly. But they sent it as a PDF file over 500 pages, deliberately making it harder for me to access the information, which is public information. Once the minutes are adopted, then they become a public document. And these are our so-called representatives. I sent everyone a request for an interview, didn't hear back from any of them, not one person. Now, the head of the IAC, the Independent Advisory Council, is Leah Van Poppel, I believe. She's also on the NDIA board, so she's on 2 of those committees. And I believe she's the person that created Blind Citizens Australia. So she should know better. And that's the problem. You see, the IAC aren't independent, just like the NDIA board. They're appointed by the minister. At that stage, it was Bill Short, and now it's Mark Butler. How can we have true representation when there's a conflict of interest? Do you hear anyone from the NDIA board or the IAC publicly come out and make comments? No, you don't. And why is that? Well, from what I've heard, is that they have a gag order that means that they can't talk to anyone about their roles and what they do. They can't make public comments. They can't reach out to participants of the NDIS. So what's the point of having them? Maybe we should get rid of both the organisations, the NDIA board and the IAC, and we vote our own people in, vote our own representatives in. But the government won't stand for that. You know, we can't be autonomous and think for ourselves. It's just not done by the Labor Party or the coalition. Just not done. It's not good politics. Shame on Rebecca Falkingham for what she did and all those people that helped to kick that person off the NDIS. Shame on Dr. George Teleporis for not providing that link when I asked for it, because there's no privacy concerns. There is for Rebecca Falkingham, but not for the participant who made those comments on YouTube, which is public information, public domain. Shame on those police officers who kicked the crap out of that poor woman. And I bet you they don't go to Long Bay Jail or anything. I bet you they go to a minimum security prison, like a work farm. So, you know, because we all know what happens if they go to a proper jail. They wouldn't last 5 minutes because they'd be beaten and stomped on, just like they did to that woman. No protection for her, so there should be no protection for the police officers, so they fully understand and comprehend what it's like to be on the receiving end of a kick or a stomp or a punch or being sprayed in the face or between the legs with capsicum spray. And people wonder why people with disabilities and their families and carers don't speak up or speak out. Because of the way we get treated, or we could get treated. Well, that's probably about all I've got for this week. I'm trying to line a few people up, including Jordan Steele, John the Green Senator. I think he would be great. But I'm still waiting to hear back. And I'm waiting to hear back from the CEO of Carers Australia. It's a great organisation. They help so many families. I'm just waiting for them to confirm some dates and times, and that should be in the next few weeks. But that's all for today. I thank everyone for coming in and listening. And if you want to contact me, please email me at blindadvocate007@gmail.com. I will respond to you fairly quickly. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Medic! Medic! I've been hit with the truth! Man down! Man down! Quick, like and subscribe before it's too late!